Well, hello, everybody. It's Monday night live with Alan and Greg and our guest, Margaret. Alan, I think, is not feeling so well today, so I'm not sure he's going to show up. That's okay. So, Margaret, how you doing tonight?
I was gonna say hi, happy campers. It's not Ellen here, but hi. I'm doing great. I just came off my fireside chat show, so yeah, just hopped off, hopped on, back on stage.
That's cool. So, a lot of live shows for you tonight.
Yes, 2 in a row, and 23 in the month of August, in addition to my normal booktube stuff. So there's a lot. There's a lot going on.
23
Yeah. Every weekday.
every weekday.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Driving force. You got to get stuff done. So this is my way to try to make myself accountable and also like happy about doing the work. So I have friends come on and help me through it.
Well, I do one of these shows every week, and it's good.
Yeah.
Every day would be a little rough, but
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe it would get you motivated just to keep that productivity and the videos cranking.
Yeah, it was just a decision I made in July because I have 2 goals for the channel, and I realized I wasn't sort of systematically going after them, and they were separately. They needed to be attacked separately. So I was like, you know what? We'll get both goals, working on watch time and subscribers. It's having a longer show that has people that I haven't had on the channel before, different audiences. And so I just did my research and then started reaching out to people and was like, I can do this for a month. It's just like NaNoWriMo. It won't last forever.
Yeah, it took me forever to get my watch time down. And even though I'm eligible for monetization now, I have not pushed that button.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, what is going to change if I do that? But
Not curious about the other side of the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so our show is pretty simple. We don't have any real structure.
Okay.
The one thing I do is I usually start off, let people talk about a book that they've read or currently reading that you want to feature.
Oh, okay.
And since you are an author, we'll probably let you talk about some of your own writing in books, since that's
okay.
That's sort of we haven't had an author on the show yet. So.
Really? Wow. I'm the first one. I'm honored. Well, this is my publishing company, Taste Life Twice. So if you see that anywhere, that's what that is. I'm an indie author. And pull this out here for my bookcase. This is my 3rd book. It's the first of a trilogy, and I am talking about recovering it and making it into a box set. So this is like on my mind recently, even though it came out in 2015. And I am a historical fiction author, so this was the first one where I was like, okay, let's do something that's really near and dear to my heart. I love Scottish history, so I went to the Isle of Mull and used a sort of fictional family to act out the social and economic changes on the Scottish islands, and had the family on a croft, fishing, farming family lose their land, move to the city, not be able to make it in the city, move across the ocean, sort of like family saga-esque, and come across some hard times but stick together somehow, some way. And does anyone know what the keening means or refers to?
I was reading something in one of your blogs or earlier today. It said, "Oh, a keen. Wait a second. She has a book called The Keening."
Yeah.
And you read it in the morning, in this year, out that year by the evening. So why don't you tell everyone what it is?
So keening is actually from a Gaelic word, Scots Gaelic, Irish Gaelic. It's pretty similar. Queena. I can't do the last sound. It's a DH. Anyway, it means like this piercing wail sound that indicates grief or mourning. So oftentimes you will have someone hired at a funeral during parts of history where that was normal, to emit this sound and show the world that this person was well loved and well respected in life, because all these people are very sad that the person is gone. And of course, before that, it came out of the fact that the family was actually sad that someone had died, and so they were wailing and wailing. So yeah, keening is just like a piercing cry. So you'll often see it in novels now that are talking about supernatural elements or witches or goblins, or just like horror kind of vibes of something in the night. So
yeah, I know when you mentioned again that it is a wail of grief, like something was like a ghost keening in the night or something.
yeah,
sort of the word is morphing into a different usage.
yeah. Whenever I see it in books that I read, I turn the corner down and I'm like, oh, I take a picture. And I should have a series of like putting these on Twitter or Instagram, but like I didn't follow through. I have like a backlog of photos and they've not been used for anything.
Yeah, because I remember also Jeremy Fee did a very kind review of the Keening.
Yes, he read the whole series.
He did, and I have it bookmarked. And sort of like honestly, okay, this is something I'm going to have to buy someday. And someone was thinking about doing a group read.
Yes.
One channel was thinking about it. Said, well, when they do the group read, I'll join. And
Berna just did, she offered to do a buddy read of the series, and she did it, I think, May, June, July, or April, May, June. So she just read through the series as well. And if you're curious as to not my take on my books, but someone else's, I actually have a playlist of other people's reviews of my books on BookTube. So if you go to my page, you can find like, there's a whole playlist of like 20. So yeah,
that's
I love
cool.
it when people do that. It's great. I'm so thankful.
Yes. And you've had at least 2 stories. There was one in the Stygian collection.
Yes.
I just finished that one. And I think you're in half Human Heroes as well.
Yes.
I have not picked up that collection yet, but.
Yeah. So yeah, the 2 AuthorTube anthologies that I am in, Stygian collection, along with Alan, who I think someone is asking why he's not here. He's feeling under the weather.
I'm going to get to the comments in just a minute.
Okay.
I mean, you do lives, and you know how hard it is. Sometimes you're talking, and the comments
they pile up.
They pile up. So let's just give a minute to scroll through all the comments. Hello, Bad. We got Zap. Bad is saying hi. When you say hi to other people, I tend to just go over it.
Yeah.
Just go over it really quick. People saying hi to each other. Hey, Margaret, it's nice to meet you, says Bad. Bad, where is Alan? I don't know.
He's somewhere in Portland, probably.
Somewhere in Portland. I think he's having a day, just.
Yeah.
So, he said he's going to take a nap. I was on the Boxer before the show, and he might be napping and realizing.
Oh, okay.
That the show, he might show up.
He might show up later then, looking groggy and disoriented.
Or he may be having internet connectivities because he doesn't have an internet connection.
That's right. He's on his phone.
He's on his phone, and
yeah.
Here's one from Bad.
I do read romance books. Yes. I have romantic elements in my fiction, and I do read plenty of like straight romance, contemporary, historical romance, paranormal romance, although not in a while. So yeah.
Yeah, as part of my Garbogist, I picked up at a thrift store today a shapeshifter romance.
Okay. Like a modern one, or like
a modern one? I don't know. I think it's across. It's like within the past 10 years or something like that.
Okay. It's changed a lot in the past 10 years. So
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I just, because, I go to thrift stores looking for stuff. I said, oh, a shifter romance. Well, I'm supposed to read one of these. So I didn't even really read the back cover that much. Yeah. And oh, she's a jaguar shifter. And she's going to meet some guy defending the universe from darkness.
Interesting. I almost always see it as the guy is the shapeshifter and the woman is human in most of these tales.
That is what Criminale said, is like, in all his experiences, it's always the guy that's a shifter.
Because it's a fantasy romance for a woman reader typically.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, it's, I'll squeeze it. I mean, I'm sure that's something you can read in a day, maybe 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a whole lot of brain power going on.
Marilyn Kenyon, man. Ooh, yep.
Hello, William. Read by Fred. Hello, Fred.
Happy Monday.
So awesome. I highly support indie authors.
Love to hear it. Oh boy.
I want to read more horror indie books. Bad, you need to get a Kindle. I know you don't like it, but you got Kindle Unlimited and you've got more indie romance, more indie horror than you can shake a stick at.
I like that.
Now, I know because you don't support Amazon, you support, there are other, so you can talk about other places you can go for these.
Yeah. Are you talking to me or are you talking
I'm talking to you? I mean,
oh yeah.
I know you don't.
Well, normally, here's my like order of looking for a book. If I see a friend has a book or someone on BookTube has a book that I think I would enjoy, I usually go to their website to see if I can buy it direct. If I can't buy it direct, I'll try to buy it on like Books to Read through Kobo or like an independent seller. And if I can't get the ebook, then if I really want to read it, I'll get a Kindle version and read it in a browser tab or whatever. So, yeah. But if you're only available on Kindle Unlimited, I don't have access. I'm not doing that.
And I signed up for Garbaugust, and it's overwhelming the number of books that are.
What is involved in signing up? I'm not familiar. Besides just reading at least one book.
I don't know what it is required of the author. I believe there is some exclusivity. Yeah, if you want to be an author on Kindle Unlimited, without your asking, or just how to read Kindle Unlimited books.
I thought you were saying authors are signing up to participate in Garbaugust, and I was like, that's interesting. No, I meant what is involved in signing up for Garbaugust when you say you signed up?
It's just reading books, trashy.
At least reading one book. Okay.
You read. I mean, there's a whole list of things you can read, but not everyone is going to follow the prompts and the bingo card. If you read one trashy book a month, you're in. You can hold it up on a video, say, "I participated in Garbaugust. I read this shifter romance," or whatever you want to pick up.
I don't think any of my women in translation books are going to qualify. I'm doing that. There's not much crossover.
I am sure there are some women writing in other languages who write trashy books that have been translated.
True. I think actually Elizabeth Buchanan Books found one that might have been a crossover that she mentioned recently, but I haven't. So
no, I mean, books in translation don't really get the low end type of books that we're talking about for Garbaugust. It's just It's just not what picked out. And the thing is, I'm going to also try to participate in Women in Translation this month. I'm trying to figure out if there's something short I can squeeze in between all the other stuff I'm supposed to. I'm got to read Faulkner this month. Got to read Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah, I'm not working on that either. I got this one. Seems really good. I got this one from my Patreon book club. That one's thinner. I got this one. That's a maybe. That's like the BookTube favorite.
That is a good one. I have read that one.
And then I've got this one that my brother gifted me, which is Japanese, which looked cute. But yeah, I don't think any of those will qualify for Garbaugust.
No. But you'll see, what you can find. Okay. Let's go through a couple more comments. Book Time with Ryan. Hello, Ryan. I think this is the first time you have shown up here. I'm not positive. He's got a good little channel. He doesn't do that many videos, but he needs more subscribers. So anyone watching, you need to check out Book Time with Ryan. Yeah.
You need a little scroller. Subscribe. That's what I do on mine when I have guests. Just like.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a question from Bad. What age, Margaret, did you know you wanted to become a writer?
I don't know, maybe like 6th grade, 7th grade. And then I sort of wrote and did fan fiction throughout high school, and then didn't get to major in English in college and sort of had to sublimate it to like be serious about something else and study that. And then I came back to it when I was too unhappy to do that serious job later. So I was like, screw this, I'm going back to writing. There's only one life, right?
Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of example from my life. I also very young wanted to be an author. And, I was really young, wrote short stories through like high school and college. Now, I did major in English literature. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a mistake. Because it said, oh, I'm serious about writing. Mm-hmm. And at least for the books now that as I'm older, I have discovered that the writing comes after you get your education. You really focus on picking up afterwards. So like if I had wanted to be a writer, I would have majored in some sort of like science or something like entomology, just picking out something. Entomology, study of insects.
Okay.
And then you start your insect career and you travel around the world, look at insects, and then you start writing your books.
Well, okay, so there's a trap in that way of thinking too, because I used to date somebody who said, I want to do something to establish myself in a career and do really well. And then eventually I'll go and be a teacher because that's what I really want to do. But I got to earn money before I go be a teacher. And he worked in accounting for several years and then was like, I think I'm going to have to work at being a teacher before I can be a good one. So I might as well like scoot over and do that now. And I was always confused by this sort of series of decisions he made. But yeah, he's been a teacher for a while now.
Yeah. So, you made it to the author track, and somewhere after my 30s, I just sort of because I was submitting and never got any attention. And of course, this was long before the days of where you could actually self-publish anything. Mm-hmm. It's just like you had to.
What type of writing?
Like short stories. My problem is the one I have right now also with my BookTube channel is that I can't focus on. I have no real.
All types.
My stories sort of cross genres, mm-hmm. And people said no, we don't want anything. This is a literary story, but it's too horror-ish. Like mentally undisturbed character. No, we don't want that in literary.
They want now, yeah.
Now they want it, and it's like I just born in the wrong time.
It's never too late. I mean, you're still here making content. Yeah,
I am.
You can submit to the Stygian Society. They're open for submission for clients now. Yeah, if you're interested.
I actually might try something for next year's Garbogast. Try to publish something. Trying to find something really on the edge of the trashy.
But why would you? But why would it be published for a readathon? You mean like?
Well, I'm not gonna say anything else.
Okay. All right.
Todd. Yahoo! Hi everyone. Hello, Margaret and Greg. I have The Cartoonist by Sheen Costello at the ready in a notepad for recommendations such as The Keening is now on my list.
Yay!
All right.
Todd Belanger, nice to meet you.
William Haybad, Risky Video coming up later.
Risky.
Book Time with Ryan. I guess Greg didn't lose power. No, we had a huge storm threatening to surge this part of the East Coast, mm-hmm. and they were actually releasing federal workers early to get home because they were expecting massive tornadoes and power outages everywhere.
Where are you? Are you in the Northeast?
I am in Virginia. I'm about 60 miles south of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Ryan is a little bit further north than me. I think he's in Virginia. He might be in Maryland, but I guess he got hit harder in the storms than I did. Because I actually thought I was going to have to do an emergency cancellation saying I have no power. I can't do anything. Yeah.
Well, my guest on my show, the last hour, Vanessa Junta, is in Atlanta, Georgia, and they were having on and off power all the day as well. And she's like, just letting you know, should be gone by the time our show goes, but like maybe not. So
it's a huge storm going through. We got a little bit of drizzle in the air, a little bit of thunder in the distance, but nothing too bad. Risque video, do tell William. Uh-oh. Read by Fred. 1 million without power right now across the states. Stay safe, folks. Yeah, if you're without power, especially if it gets really hot tomorrow and you still don't have it. William's reading smut out loud. Oh no, William, that's an awesome video.
I don't know Penelope Douglas. That name is unfamiliar to me, but I will look it up right now.
I think it rings a bell as a romance author.
Oh, yeah, the covers definitely look romance. The Devil's Night series. Oh. Well, I'll keep it open and look her up afterwards when I am not a guest on a show.
Question read by Fred. Margaret, can you tell us about the short stories you wrote for the Stygian collection and the Half Human Heroes anthologies?
Yes, sure. So Jeremy Fee's call came first, and so I had about a month to work on a short story. And when I thought Half Human Heroes, I think it was sort of tilted toward fantasy, but what came out when I wrote what I thought would be appropriate for Half Human, it was more sci-fi. So I sent that in. The story that I sent in for Half Human Heroes is like a portal fantasy with like dual consciousness being worked in, because I had just read a couple of those. So that was like new area for me to explore. And then for the Stygian collection, I also went in like a dark sci-fi vibe. So someone's at a space station in the dystopian future, monitoring Earth, kind of like WALL-E. And they have an interaction with someone else who turns out to be not who they thought they were, and like with consequences for the universe. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. I'm trying because I read the whole Stygian collection. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, I can't remember that many short stories in my brain all at once.
It's a lot. There's 25. It's a lot. Yeah.
It was. And go ahead.
I named my character Dirk as like a peon or a homage to like true sci-fi. Garb August sci-fi.
Yeah. All right. Margaret, what are your thoughts of the author Colleen Hoover? I know everyone has mixed reaction. I do enjoy her unique style of writing.
So I have not read Coho, but I'm aware of her force of nature effect on TikTok. I'm on TikTok. And what I've heard is that her stories and plots sort of go into the dark romance and the sort of like power relations that I wouldn't be okay with reading or supporting. So I'm okay not reading her books. She's doing fine. She's super popular, but I don't really want to support romances that put abusive relationships in like a golden light. So it's kind of my take. I haven't read it, but from what I've heard about it, I'm just going to stay out of it.
Yeah, I read one book by her or listened to the audiobook. And the relationship is a little bizarre.
Yeah.
And I can definitely see the point where you're going is like, that's not a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
In that book.
Yeah.
But I sort of overlooked that. My problem with her was an extremely unrealistic ending.
Okay. Like Happy Ever After kind of?
No, not even happy. It's like there are certain things human beings can do. And there are certain things human beings. I'm trying not to give a spoiler.
You don't know. You haven't told us which book it is. So
it is a Verity.
Oh, well, now you've told us. Now you can't give a spoiler. Okay. All right.
You don't know quite, but there's something that happens in the book that a human being just can't do that.
Okay. Talking about
It's just
physically impossible.
physically, or if you go into the real fantasy, even then, I think
Yeah.
it's the point where she just made something up that would be cool,
Yeah.
and I just did not buy it at all.
Gotcha. Cool.
But it's an important part of the plot that this person is able to do something.
Oh, okay.
But when you think about it, it says no, you can't do. People can't do that.
Yeah.
I joke about this. Like, one of my big pet peeves are when people can fly, or like Superman. It's like,
But
I just don't believe in flying people.
but
You know,
it's a fantasy.
it is a fantasy, but my realistic brain says you need an energy source to push him. Where does he store this energy? What sort of waste product comes out when he's flying? Because, like,
I had an interesting thought that was like a start of a short story, and then I just dropped it because I'm like, I don't have time to go into this. But the first line of the story was all magic is time travel. And it was going to be based on the premise of the fact that when you magically change the result, like if you say you had a bowl of oatmeal and you like whisked your hand and changed it into a chicken pot pie that would have taken a lot of more effort. Basically you're time traveling and doing the thing back that would have produced it. So like there's logic in there, but that's not fun.
okay.
So I don't know. I don't usually get that technical or that like rational needing, but it occurred to me today. So it's funny.
You should try it. Greg, haha, I know, Greg. I need a Kindle and audio.
Audiobooks.
Or you could try a Kobo. I mean, that's a valid.
Yeah, I had a Kobo for a while, like a really tiny one. I don't recommend reading Dickens on a Kobo. That's all I'll say.
Okay. Is it just the screen too small?
It's just too many words. It's like my finger got numb because the screen was too small and I had to swipe too often. Yeah.
Oh, this is my huge Kindle.
Ooh, Lurking in the Dark. Wow, that looks
That's
like a
an
nice
author tube.
horror. Yeah, nice.
All right. Okay, now I'm officially sold on the idea of a Kindle. Hello, Nettie. I hope you're still here, Nettie. I'm sorry I've taken like 20 minutes to get to your comment.
Nettie, nice to meet you.
Fred, bad as rat too. There are severe storms across the eastern portion of the states, New York to Alabama.
Wow.
We had some crazy storms up here in Canada too.
What you gonna do? Climate don't like to be messed with.
It doesn't. So Williams Library, I'm a writer myself. No success in publishing.
Yet.
Now here's a question. Now, especially like I said, when I was trying to write, my options were magazines or book publisher. That was, or they had this thing called Vanity Press and that was really frowned upon.
Right.
I was like, that was considered like not cool back then.
Right.
But when the Kindle publishing sort of kickstarted the whole indie movement, saying, well, I can publish something myself. And I got in, I read some early, and I'm going to say that not all of them put effort into being professional.
Right. The early days were the early days. It was the Wild West. You could make a whole lot with not very much to start with. Yeah.
My favorite was a guy who wrote a science fiction novel. And I don't think he'd ever read a science fiction novel in his life.
Come on.
I think he looks at some science fiction movies
okay.
But I'm trying to describe this. Now, I am not a good speller. I was never good at spelling, but he was talking about a grisly mess, grisly graves, and grisly something else. But he spelled it
with Z's instead of an S. Oh boy!
Because we were doing it on a board as a group. It's like, is this a book about bears?
Yeah. I mean, honest mistake. It's a word.
It is a word,
Sounds the same. It's a homophone.
but at least I can say now is the more recent ones I picked up, they're paying attention to that.
Yeah.
They're saying, okay, you can't just put in grizzly,
Right.
and get away with it.
Yeah. What's cool, I don't know when you were reading that book, but I would say like 2011, 2012 was the sort of height of the easy to get in and make a quick buck on CreateSpace. I started publishing in 2013, right after that like high point, of course. And so that's 10 years. And we just had like a little anniversary stream with JD Estrada and Emma Bennett. We've all been in for 10 years and had vastly different experiences. So we were talking about our highlights and our goals and our dreams and like kind of like reminiscing, but also like laughing at the things that we've seen and done. So that was really fun. If anyone wants to check that out, it's on my channel from Saturday.
Okay. Did you ever consider going regular publishing route?
I did at various points, but I already rejected a career in the theater because I don't like auditioning. So every time I would sort of work myself up to like, oh, I'm going to go query. I've got the research and I got the names and I'm going to go through agents. And I would just be like, I don't want the rejection. I don't want to handle it like that. In addition to like everything else going on in my life was always just like, no, thanks. So I didn't think I was like psychologically strong enough to handle that part of the process. And I was like, I'll just go my own way and take what I get, So
Well,
it's a choice.
it is a choice. Digging books, hey, bad. People saying hello to each other.
Yeah, new people, new faces.
Yeah. I was checking the weather. We're on high fire alert and extreme heat. She's in Texas.
Oh, okay.
Chris, they may fix the weather in the world. I don't think anyone's fixing our weather within my lifetime.
No.
Unless I get a really unusually long life. I'm actually on my way to a firefighting drill.
Oh, okay.
He's in Indonesia, so.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Nettie, wow, it's still really hot where you are. Bad. Yep. Okay. They're talking not to us, but to each other.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so it's like just in the 80s, and I'm still like wearing scant clothing and have the fan on, have the windows open because I don't have AC. So I'm a wimp. It's true.
Well, I used to live in Washington State, so I remember when I moved out there going, like, these summers are just so beautiful. It's like middle of summer and it's maybe 78 degrees on a hot day. And
perfect.
It's perfect. And we bought a house out there and we were shocked that AC was not really a standard thing.
Not at all. No.
But, when because we ordered the house, just put in AC. Because, brand new, we're moving from Virginia where it's always hot. And, it came in handy a couple weeks out of the year. Because there's usually at least 2 weeks in the summer where everyone's just absolutely miserable because you have a
especially right before you left when we had all those fires. Yeah.
Those fires are terrible.
Yeah.
Where I lived in a town on Bonnie Lake, and we had a lightning strike near one of those electrical stations, and it started a wildfire. And I looked out, at my street, and I said, there's a lot of smoke coming down that hill. And I walked down the street, and I saw fire.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And we did have an evacuation order saying, everyone out, But, they were good. For
someone who wants to live in like a foggy, cold, mossy environment like Scotland, that's why I moved here, not for all the wildfires. So, yeah, it's hard. It can be hard.
Where'd you move from?
I moved from DC, actually.
Oh, another DC person.
I grew up in California and I lived in DC for grad school and a few years for working before I said, see ya, gonna go right.
No, I mean, DC's an interesting city. It's not It's just unlike like New York City or Chicago. You think of these big cities, it's like totally
different feel.
Now, part of it is that the restriction on the building heights, that you're not allowed to have a building taller than the Capitol.
Right.
So you have no high rises in Washington, D.C., which makes it feel very uncity-like.
Well, it felt city-like to me.
What part were you living in? Can I ask?
Near Chinatown. So
near Chinatown, okay.
Northwest and then Chinatown. It felt very like Paris because Paris doesn't have high rises either. But it's like got old architecture mixed in, different eras, and attempts at grandeur in DC, I will say.
I never lived in downtown DC. I lived in Bethesda, Maryland, just right next to the border and right across the street from NIH.
Yeah, the institutes.
So Ryan, thanks, Greg. I'm an award-winning thumbnail maker. Currently reading Omo by Herman Melville. Okay. Do they give awards for thumbnails?
I don't know who does, but I like it.
I have this year I started paying attention to thumbnails. It used to be that I just took whatever default thumbnail that YouTube would give me, but someone convinced me to subscribe to Canva, and now it's like
rabbit hole.
It really is. And once you start, it's like gotta do.
Yeah.
Now, Omo is a Herman Melville that I have not read.
Oh, me either.
I've read Taipei, which is actually it's actually a remarkably good book. That's his first book about traveling through the South Pacific. During 1800s something.
Probably like 1830s or 40s.
Somewhere around. I read it so many years ago, but I was really surprised that this is actually a pretty exciting. It's like it would have been a thriller of its day.
Right. Nice.
It's crashed. I don't know. Is there anyone else? Oh, here's bad. Is there anyone else in your family that is a writer? Where did you get your inspiration from?
History. I'm a history nerd. This is 1820s in Scotland, and it was based on like a small fact that I read about a tariff being repealed and how that would have rippled out effects on small crofters. And I was like, oh, I have an idea. So
you fell in love with the era and before you started getting your characters. Is that right?
I fell in love with the setting, and then I had to decide which decade. Like I knew the 19th century is sort of my landscape, but like they're very different feels of the decades. So I had to figure out when to place it. Yeah.
All right. Digging. Ooh, now it's back again. They're having a conversation that I'm not following.
That's not you.
The drill is at the Nature Reserve Foundation I work for runs.
Oh, the firefighting.
The fire drill. Yeah. Zap, English degree here too. Hey, Zap. Yeah. And I turned out to be a computer programmer. Just go figure.
You probably did much better for yourself.
When I finished with university, I worked at a bookstore. And I mean, you can understand that you don't make a lot of money working at a bookstore.
I've worked at bookstores, yeah.
I tried to get into the higher levels because one of the bookstores I worked for was Borders Books and Music. Now, I started before they were a national chain because they used to be an independent bookstore. Owned by two brothers. And then they sold out to Kmart.
Oh, I didn't know.
We went into work one day, says, Borders Brothers sold us to Kmart.
Wow.
And that was
beginning of the rise and then the fall.
Beginning of the rise and the ultimate decline of Borders.
Yeah.
Bad says, you need to help me, Ryan, with my thumbnails. Bad, your thumbnails are pretty good. Brian does some good ones too. Pairing the thumbnails with songs.
Interesting.
Yeah, I kind of remember that there's always a song with opening a lot of his videos. Now I never put songs in my videos because I'm always terrified that you'll pick something that's copyright protected.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you choose from the YouTube library of songs, you can't go wrong. That's their own.
I've tried that, and every time I search for something, I get nothing from what I like.
Oh.
Yeah. So I guess you have to have a broader taste in music than I do to find stuff.
It can be hard, yeah. When I started out, I didn't like much of what they had either.
Chris, I said, "What's to be done, Lord, about the weather in my head."
It sounds like a lyric. I don't.
Chris does a lot of lyrics, as I remember. Greg, you should really share a story. I think we would appreciate. No, I think the world is a better place that my stories never got published. When you're young, you think this is a really great story. I'm going to be totally famous. It's going to be great. And then I look at that as an adult. I know why this story was rejected by magazines now, because it wasn't very good.
Well, your point earlier about like having life experience and expertise in something else and then coming back to writing and that being really valuable is a good one. So
it is.
So now might be the time.
I just wish when I was young and single that I had traveled the world, just told that I'm working at a bookstore. Just grab a backpack and go to Europe for a couple months or something.
Yeah.
But I never did that.
I did some traveling in my younger days. I hope to do some more, but I'm sort of, what's it called? I don't want to use the word handicapped, but I'm blanking on a word that could replace it. I feel held back by the fact that like anywhere you go in a plane, you're going to be like carbon polluting, and not to mention that it's expensive. So
yeah. Book time with Ryan. I pick out something from the book, but a little off, and then edit over a few layers and often throw in my face unless the story is true and tragic or too dark death.
For the thumbnail, I guess. Yeah.
For the thumbnail. Ryan, we're still out in Manassas.
Oh, Ryan's in Manassas. Hi, Manassas, Virginia. I've been there.
I owned a house in Manassas, Virginia at one time.
Like battlefield kind of country.
Yeah, I was not far from the first Bull Run battlefield, like 5 miles.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan will know. I lived off the Prince William County Parkway.
Okay.
And he'll probably know the road that I lived off of. And
nice.
I drove by it a couple months ago. My wife and I were looking, where did we used to live? And we're looking. It's like,
all foreign now. Probably looks very
It's good. All foreign. It's all built up. We couldn't find our old street. It's kind of embarrassing, It's like,
it happens when you move around. Yeah.
Bad. Margaret, how do you feel about authors pushing it too far in the story plot? I had someone in my family that disagrees in extreme content. I believe in freedom of writing. Example, extreme horror.
I mean, that's when you DNF, right? It's up to the reader. I believe in freedom of reading as well. So, if it's not my thing, I'm not going to read it. That's fine. I write what you want to write, and it'll find the readers who want to read it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, but I know at the point, because I read a book that I'm going to have to be reviewing tomorrow that's extreme. It's just like, okay, you're just being extreme to be extreme. It's just like,
yeah, not really, not generally a fan.
It was okay, but oh wait. You have a comment in your own.
Yeah.
Austin.
I am finally a guest on someone else's StreamYard channel. So I tried out the connecting your YouTube and commenting through the StreamYard studio, and it worked. So I was like just a little excited, a little nerding out here. Mm-hmm. It's fun.
Bad. I highly recommend Credence from Penelope Douglas.
Definitely check it out.
Chris, 4 old hippies driving in the rain. I asked for a lift and they said, get used to the pain. I think it's another lyric. Wow, Margaret in the chat. Very cool.
I'm looking at Ryan's comment.
I'm not going to try to pronounce Latin. Very fair, Margaret. Thank you for answering my question. Hey, Gareth. Hello. Hi, everyone. I've caught the live stream. Gareth is in London area, sort of. Very late at night, but that's sort of his favorite time.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Nettie's still here. Hey, glad you're here still, Nettie. I believe in the fertility of sound.
Right over my head. Sorry.
It's okay, you know. Margaret, may I ask about your writing process? Do you outline your stories? If so, do you outline changes as your characters evolve, or do you completely know your characters from the start?
This is a great question. And so I've got 6 books out, and sort of from the beginning to the end, I've gotten better at framing the story before I start, but I do not know the ending. And that's sort of my Achilles heel, is that like it's so hard to finish, to figure out how to wrap everything up when I'm discovery writing. I did outline a novella last year, 2 years ago, and I even had it developmentally edited last December. And it is August now. I have not done anything else on it, because when I outline, it takes all like the joy of figuring it out of the process. And so it's just sitting there because I'm like, I don't care. I don't like it anymore. So I found out through using an outlining book and doing things by the book that is not the way I work, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting about writing advice. You know, people always, ask writers, oh, give me some advice.
Yeah.
And I always thought a writer would go, just figure it out yourself. You'll do better. But,
Yeah, you really have to try to see what fits for you. That's the best advice, I think.
Because I remember some writing advice, say, write your first draft as fast as you can, and then go back and edit. And that never worked for me. The opposite was Kurt Vonnegut, who would write one page, and then he'd revise the first page, go back and finish revising the first page until he was satisfied.
Yeah.
Then he'd write page 2, which is like,
that would drive me crazy.
The total polar opposite of write everything down as fast as you can.
Right.
And I was somewhere in between, sort of leaning towards the Kurt Vonnegut end. It was like, I like to have a very robust first draft.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
People saying hi to each other. Book time with Ryan. Humans can't do that. He's talking about sneezing with your eyes open. Yeah. Critical to the plot.
Yeah. Having me laugh.
Superman is an alien. Yeah, I get. But another example was, I think, one of the Anne Rice vampire books, and a vampire comes up to a mountain and just starts flying over the mountain. I'm going like,
yeah. Well, don't read Discovery of Witches, Greg.
Don't read Discovery of Witches.
It's a great story. It's very compelling, very page-turning, but lots of stuff happens. It's like magic that makes no sense. And I love it, but it doesn't sound like you would.
Probably not.
Oh.
I know, what was Harry Potter? They're flying around on brooms and taking sharp corners. Like, don't you know that if you turn too fast, the broom will go one direction and your body will go that direction?
Well, that's ordinary physics. That's Muggle physics.
I'm stuck in the non-magical world.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great question, Fred. I want to know. That's clever. Very funny, Ryan. Others see you but not guess you by your uncertain conjunctions. Digging books. Greg, I have that Lurking in the Dark book. I bought it for PAX. You know, I was reading it yesterday, and the PAX story is the next one
Ooh.
that I have scheduled to read.
Uh-huh.
And I might read that before I go to bed tonight.
There you go.
It's like a 5 minute.
I'm almost done with the Stygian collection. I'm like 20 or 30 pages from the end. I just reread my story, which is close to the end. So I finally got there. But yeah, I've been reading one piece at a time. It's nice.
When I had it, I was reading one story a day. Just
yeah, me too.
You know, that's actually a very, I like to do that, like break things up. So you're not always just reading one book.
Mm-hmm.
And short stories are good for that. Digging books. Nice to meet you, Margaret. Has Alan been affected by the storm? No, Nettie. He's
a nap.
I think he took a nap.
Yeah, Alan and I are in the same town. We're both in Portland, so it's fine.
Yeah, Portland is such a beautiful. I mean, I've been down there a couple. It's
nice.
It is. Now, do you live in downtown Portland or like
close to downtown, like 20-minute walk?
Okay. Because I said I visited when I was selling my house in Washington. I went down there for the weekend, and that's how I met Alan in person, because they had just lifted the COVID restrictions in Portland. It's like the weekend they lifted it. So
yeah, shops were open again.
Shops were open. Of course, we went to Powell's Books. I just
gleefully dove in.
Just like I could be there all day.
Yeah, you can.
And still not see. I mean, not still. You're there for like 2 hours, and you're on one floor.
Yeah, and the floors are not even. It took me a while to figure out how the floors interlocked. Like they're not just like one floor, 2 floor, 3. You kind of go up, and there's a half, and then there's like another half, and then there's like another footprint of a building that's sort of up half a floor, and yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's just it's like I said, it's the biggest independent bookstore in the world.
Pretty cool.
So read by Fred. Oh, can you tell me more about the AuthorTube community? What kind of content do these videos entail? Is it AuthorTube only, YouTube, or do you collaborate outside of YouTube?
Lots of questions there. Okay, so AuthorTube community is by and large great. I started off being in BookTube and like talking about books, and then probably about 9 months in, I was thinking, oh, there's authors on here too. Like there's an AuthorTube side. So I started trying to do interviews and a little bit of stuff about my books specifically that was like AuthorTube content. But right now, I would say the canon AuthorTube content is sprints, which is basically like writing sprints. And I don't particularly find myself being productive during those. So I will drop in to say hi in the chat and get to know the people hanging out. But like, I won't stay for the sprinting parts too much. And then is AuthorTube only YouTube, or do collaborations happen outside?
Oh.
So I know some authors that go onto Twitch as well. And I know some authors who use Discord as sort of a partner app to text, because you can't really like message on YouTube. So, and some people like Greg mentioned earlier use Voxer to coordinate buddy reads and that sort of thing. So I think a lot of people use sort of partner platforms to either grow their audience or coordinate their collaborations and stuff like that. For my fireside chats, my August show that I'm doing, my 23 shows in a month that I'm being crazy to do, I actually connected with people on all different platforms, and I made notes where I connected with them, because one of the things I hate is when I try to do a big thing and I'm like, wait, where was it? Were they here or there or where? I don't remember, because people are so many different places. And then I said, before I gave them any information, I was like, can you send me your email? So I have everyone's email and I can send one group email. So that's how I did it, because I couldn't stand like forgetting and having people be all different places. But yeah, lots of people use lots of different things.
It just gets daunting how many options we have nowadays. And
it is. It definitely is.
Nettie, I have that book, Fred. It's a collection of short stories, and one of them is Pax is in there. Yeah,
Nice.
I try to buy I try to buy a lot of like these anthologies just to support
It's great.
everyone I'm booked to.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's what I get on my 100 book challenge. It's one of my exceptions is that I'm allowed to buy books from booktubers just because.
Yeah. Right. It feels like more of a moral support.
It is.
Thing rather than
If your friends writing books and you just buy their books, you know. And I'm glad I was the first one to come up with that exception, and everyone said, "Oh yeah, I like that. I like that exception."
Me too. Not observing at all.
Plagued by Visions, Juan story freaked me out, Nettie. You're probably talking about the Sid Vicious short story. Did you read that?
Oh no, I think Plagued by Visions is
Plagued by Vision is a booktuber. Juan is his name.
Oh, right. Yes. I'm trying to remember where I saw a short story of his. I don't know where it is. I can't remember. But
he writes really disturbing horror, so yeah. it may not be your jam.
No. Although I will say. So do you know R.C. Scott? He's an author tuber that does horror stuff, and he's come out with a few since last year, like short stories and then novellas.
Is he in one of these anthologies?
No.
Okay.
No, but he has published his own and sort of come out with his own brand. And I read his first short story, and it is body horror, violent, gory, but like really well written. So I got it to like invest in him and like help him. And then I was like, this is really well written, but not my thing. I had the same thing for Mr. Morningstar's story I just read in the Stygian collection, which is the person who has like somebody in a body bag, and then you find out how it got there.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Oh my God.
All right. I remember that one now.
Yeah. So good. So well written. It
was very well done.
Yeah.
All right. Gareth, it's so true. You need to know the definitions of words you're using, even the seemingly obvious ones. I think it's from a previous about 20 minutes ago.
Is that the grizzly discussion?
The grizzly, yeah. Probably.
Nice.
I haven't read it yet. Try. Okay. I'm going to check out the writing, Margaret. Great to hear you talking about writing.
Thank you.
No beast so fierce, but knows some touch of pity, but no none. Therefore, I am no beast.
I like that's poetic.
There, he gets some good quotes. Accomplishing so much precisely because it imagined and hoped for so little. Orion, no, it wasn't given, but someone suggested it. Son counting that as winning an award.
Oh, the thumbnails.
The thumbnail. Okay, someone suggested that you get an award, and Son says or something.
Count it as an award. I like that. I
would too.
Forge through.
Let us only listen. We tell ourselves all we most need. Omo picks up right where Taipei leaves off. Both sold well.
Serial writer, just like Dickens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Done Melville.
Is it? I guess it's the same characters then. Now I'd have to go back to Taipei because I read that 12 years ago, and
that's a long time.
When you read 80 plus books per year back then, now I'm reading 100 plus. You can't just remember them all. It's just like,
yeah.
Gareth, imagine you reciting your comments on a windswept moor, pacing around, yelling to the sky.
I can see it. I like it.
I don't know if Chris does videos. He just might be a commenter, but
no profile pic, so that would indicate less likely.
Less likely, but that's an interesting idea for a video. I don't have windswept moors out here in Virginia, but I could go to the Civil War battlefields and
pretty close
read things out, and people going like, that's really kind of odd. Might get more videos than a normal book talk. It's just, Omo and Taipei are very good indeed. Fred, can you tell me about a day in your life as an author, Margaret? Do you keep a notepad with your ideas? Do you spend a lot of time doing new research? Do you visit places for inspiration?
Okay, once again, lots of questions. So don't put it back. Leave it on the screen.
Keep it up.
Okay. So the easier questions first. Do I keep a notepad for ideas? No, I keep 17 notepads for ideas because writers need paper. Do I spend a lot of time doing new research? Yes, it goes in like spurts and fizz times, I guess. Yeah. And you visit places for inspiration? Yes, definitely. I have been to Scotland, I think 5 or 6 times for trips specifically for this series. So, yeah, that was fun. It's a good excuse, and like I said, I'm waiting to go back. Have also been to Nova Scotia, and that's written into the books as well as the YA book. That's a beautiful country as well. So I love traveling, and I love incorporating new places and settings and atmospheres into the historical fiction. And day in the life as an author. Right now, it's mostly concentrating on the Fireside Chats show. So 23 shows in a month on YouTube to grow the channel means that I'm focusing on that, and I can't really focus primarily on anything else. So like April, I did short stories every day and a TikTok every day. And those are like 2 things that I did at once. And then May, I was working mostly on the AuthorTube writing conference. And then June, I was down with my family in California working on family business and just like keeping up the channel. And then July, I came back and was working on writing craft for Camp Nano. So I sort of like move by month between these different priorities, whether it's the YouTube channel or the writing or the researching or the marketing. So like they weave in and out, and that's actually playing to my strengths because I can't do something the same for a really long time and not go crazy. So like I like deep dives, but I also like switching it up, task switching and learning new things. And so I need sort of a mix of all those. So yeah, lots of time spent on social media and then time spent reading and then just like unplugging, sort of toggle between those.
Interesting. Do you find when you're writing, you schedule time during the day to write at a certain period of time, or do you just?
That does not work for me. It has in the past. Like I've gotten up and done writing first thing. But these days I do 1 single morning page instead of 3. I find that 3 sort of takes all the creative energy. So now the last month I've done only 1 page when I first wake up, and it's capturing sort of dreams and the seeds of ideas. And then I sort of push that aside and go on with like my to-do list. And so sometimes the day will have writing sessions like what I just did with the Fireside Chat with Vanessa. We worked on our work in progress. So she was working on a reading magnet, which is like a short story, and I was working on a new longer short story, which is actually combining 2 seeds of ideas from different periods, one last year and one in April. And I thought, I can put them together. So we're trying that, drafting.
Yeah, when I was trying to write it, is like when I was working, I could never do a day's work. No, because I always started working in the morning and then you get home and I said, no, I'm too tired.
You got to figure out a time then.
But what I did is, because I wasn't married, no budget to travel. I took vacation. I took a week off. I said, okay, this week I'm writing something. Get up in the morning and write the 9 hours and then be done. I know some people said, well, you just got to find time and squeeze it in. But
yeah,
that didn't, of course, my plan didn't really turn out so well anyway, but
Well, I do better in short chunks. So kind of like task switching and month by month priority focusing. I do better like 40 minutes or maybe 70 minutes. Those are kind of my sweet spots for writing sessions. I can't write hours at a time. My brain just like it goes too hard and then sort of putters to a stop and needs to like do something else before it can refuel.
Here's
Nisha.
yes. Hello. Bad saying hello. I'm trying to, if you add songs, you lose out of future monetization. But that's not a problem for me. I stick to the 555 sub numbers.
There you go.
I've heard rumors that they're going to get rid of the 1,000 sub requirement.
They have for certain types of things. So if you have 3,000 hours of watch time and 500 subscribers, you are eligible to get super chats, which are like the little throwing money at you in the chat. And like memberships maybe, but not ads. So ads is still 1,000.
Still 1,000. Okay. Saying hello to everyone. Saying hello. Sorry if I don't read out your hellos. It's just Chris. Much is published, but little printed. The rays which stream through the shutter will no longer be remembered when the shutter is wholly removed.
Interesting. Filters, maybe? I don't know.
Saying hello. Saying hi to Nettie. Hello, Idget Reads and Rambles.
I love the name. Idget. Sup, boo?
Fred has some awesome questions. You see, I don't have the host. I don't have to think of questions.
Yeah, you have a great audience.
Comes in and does all my work for me. Gareth, love that you feel you can overplan and that kills it for you sometime. Love that. I do a vague plan, but let my mind hit the words spontaneously within that plan.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, have you ever been in a story where all of a sudden it just takes off in a different direction that you weren't expecting? Saying
gets hijacked.
Well, what?
Gets hijacked.
Yeah, it's like you're right. I wanted this character to take a bus and go down to Pal's bookstore, but this character says, I'm going to go to Paris today.
Yeah.
Or whatever,
Not exactly, but okay, so this one, the YA book. So this is the one that takes place in Nova Scotia, and it's like a supernatural time travel with this girl who's in high school, and it's time travel. So I had two storylines. I had 18th century, sort of something went wrong that she has to write, and I had 2015 or whatever. She's going to high school in Nova Scotia. And when I sent it to the editor, she was like, so it's pretty obvious you like the historical timeline better. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to rework some of this. And that necessitated some major plot changes. So it wasn't the characters telling me, but it was like my weighting one side too heavily, and it got me in trouble. So it took extra long to finish.
Well,
yeah,
you write what you love.
Yeah.
Fred, that is incredible about how you feel about story outlines. I tend to do the outline everything, but that's because of my science background.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea a story could get boring if it was outlined.
Yeah, just depends on how you write.
That's where we went back earlier is you have to figure out what kind of outliner or story writer you are. Mm-hmm. Because, like I said, the write as fast as you can never worked for me. Some authors say they don't know when they start a book, they don't know how it ends. That's you?
Yeah, for sure.
That was Dan Simmons. He was a science fiction sort of horror writer. Mm-hmm. His comment was, no surprise for the author, no surprise for the reader.
Yeah. Yeah. That works for a lot of people. I produce interviews with Hank Philippi Ryan. She's a thriller writer. And she's the same way as I am. She starts and she doesn't know where it's going to end. She just has a really clear picture of the premise and the characters, and then just sort of like lets them sort of take it forward. So I love listening to her talk about her process too.
Yeah, someone should do an anthology of writers advising other writers, and just have lots of contradictory.
Oh yeah, just like layering it back and forth.
Back and forth. You have the one person saying, "You write just as fast as you can." The first draft. The other one says, "No, you want to be very careful with your first draft." And just like this page, this one, this page, that one, and then someone's going to say,
"That sounds perfect.
Whose advice am I going to take?"
Right. That sounds like a TikTok, like ready to be made, right there.
All right. I've heard people say keep the ending open or change it from the original plan.
Yeah. No original plan, no change.
Mm-hmm. Hey, here's Gareth. Has your writing become more layered and more ambitious the more you've written?
Interesting question. So I would say what's become more ambitious is the themes. So I think my first book was a historical mystery. It was very whodunit. It was very political thriller. I brought in like Russian and hypnotism and amnesia and all the tropes, right? And it was really fun. But that was very layered, and complicated, but not like smooth and subtle. And so I feel like when I've gotten more historical fiction drama-y, I've gone from action and sort of like thrillery stuff to more quiet, subtle, emotional, internal, and social commentary stuff. So like if you read, you'll be hearing about how society changed through this one family and through the generations, rather than like kabam pow, So yeah, we'll see though. I mean, now that I'm going off in the direction of short stories and sci-fi, I'm still pulling those strings of like social commentary and what I'm observing, but like through different actions and different media. So I don't know. I'm getting more experimental. So I don't know if that's more ambitious or just like my personality in writing.
Well, there's different types of writers. Like you have one writer or one type of writer let's just pick out mystery books, and they will write the character of their detective Billy Bob, and Billy Bob solves a crime in book 1. Book 2, Billy Bob solves a crime, and then 30 books later, it's always Billy Bob solves a crime, and it's like the same book over and over and over again. And those books can be very popular because you know what you're getting when you buy it.
Yes. And that's what they say sells, is that when you have something that people can expect, but in a different package, that's exactly what people want when they sit down to a lot of mysteries or thrillers or romance, So yeah, that's a good meal ticket.
It is, but then you have some authors, and he's illiterate, he's not, but Michael Chabon. Mm-hmm. He wrote most famously The Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. Historical New York, and then all his other books are totally different. Because Alan is here, he'd talk about, because we sort of have this informal book club with him and Mark and Book Time with Els. We're reading a Michael Chabon book every couple months.
Oh, okay. I hadn't heard about that. That's cool.
And his books are just completely different. It's like, if you were not to put his name on the book, you say, these are different authors.
Right.
Because it's like, I've written this book, I don't want to write the same book again. And it's just...
I've heard that Alex Harrow is similar. I've only read one of her books, so like I need to try another one. But
I don't know what's she written?
The one I've read is The 10,000 Doors of January.
Okay. I've heard of that book, but I've not.
The Once and Future Witches. It's sort of YA, sort of portal fantasy, or it's a fun niche, but they're very different writing voices. I've heard so.
Ryan says, Muggle. See, I'm going to say I'm a mundane. Just
Yeah,
like,
that too. That works.
but Paul McCartney says the Beatles composed their songs just messing around about no planning involved, just having fun.
With a lot of practice. Yeah.
Idjit. Most of the time when I draft, I can't tell WTF I'm talking about. So many drafts are necessary. Normally, I wait a couple of weeks so I can forget what I was trying to do. It seems to help.
Yeah. Put it in a drawer. Put a timer on it. That makes sense.
And when you put it in a drawer and look at it 30 years later, you're going to go,
well, 30 years is not the timer I would suggest. Maybe 6 months.
Ryan has to sign off. Still no power. Phone's in the red. I guess we know why Ryan was here tonight, because he's sitting in a dark house with his phone trying to do something.
Guy.
Good night, Ryan, even though you're gone. Peace, Ryan.
Yeah.
Good night. Emails cut through the mess of social media apps.
Right, when I was trying to organize all my guests to be on one group email.
Margaret, how do you translate the awesome sign beside you, taste life twice? He missed that in the very beginning.
Yeah, so Taste Life Twice is the name of my publishing company, because I'm an indie author, and it comes from an Anais Nin quote that says, "We write to taste life twice, in the moment and in retrospect." So it's basically about the art of writing and how we dive deeper into our own thoughts. So I just really like that. It made it part of my publishing company.
Now, do you only publish your own books, or do you publish other people's as well?
Just mine. I've considered publishing other people, but it's kind of daunting to consider opening the floodgates, and how would you decide? How would you discern? How would you not make it a thing with your friends who are writers? It'd be weird. So I haven't done any of that.
Marketing is more work intensive than writing.
In some ways, yes, very much so. Tasks that you check off a list, definitely marketing all day, every day.
Yeah, that's one of the things I would really be bad at marketing. I always thought if I wanted to publish it, I just use a pen name and just don't do interviews, don't go on tour.
Yeah.
Throw it out there and go, who is this whatever pen name it is,
Right.
Because I always find who's the big pen name author? She writes in Italian.
Elena Ferrante.
Mm-hmm. And there's so much speculation.
Oh, she's been found out.
What?
Yeah, she's been found out.
Is it her husband? Is it a guy who's writing it, or is it really a woman?
I think it's a woman.
Because I saw someone's booktube saying it's not a woman writing this; it's a man writing under a woman's name.
Really? Okay. So I just actually had to post something about her for work that I do for a magazine, and I was looking up. She advisedly has a website, and it says she's 80 years old, but I didn't look to see. There were pictures, and it's a picture of a woman. So I thought that it was a woman, but
it could be. I mean, my comment was people are trying to analyze writing styles. If you're writing under a pen name, it means you want to be left alone.
Right.
Why are you bothering them?
Right. I agree. But, tabloids.
Mm-hmm. Idjit, Nova Scotia, Canuck lit, yeah. I've been to Nova Scotia, but I was in Nova Scotia in high school, so that was troglodyte or trilobite era or something.
Oh, it's a beautiful place.
It was beautiful. I do remember the night we were on the seashore, and it was a high school trip, and we had this big tent of everyone sleeping, and a huge windstorm came in and blew the tent over, and everyone else just left the tent and went into this lodge, and I stayed out and the tent. It was down and blowing all over me. And I said, if I had left, the tent would have blown into the sea.
Interesting. Yeah, I got to see the Hector. I got to try my first lobster sandwich and see the beautiful fall colors. I was too late for the music festival, but like there's a lot of stuff I got to see. It was neat.
Chris, it is myself that I remake, said the poet Yeats in speaking of his revisions.
Yeats. Yeah.
Yeats.
Cool.
Idjit, do you feel like you become a better reader as you become a better writer? Doing an English degree right now and found my courses largely useless compared with creative writing experience.
Interesting.
I think this goes back to what I was talking about, is that if you want to be a writer, don't study writing.
Sad but true. Yeah. I feel like you're in a different register when you're doing an English degree because you're focused on analysis and critique, which is a very specific kind of lens, whereas creative writing as a course of study is very different. It's like experimenting and, drawing from different pools of inspiration. So I would say better reader. I would say more critical reader. I would say I'm more prepared to put a book down when I'm not vibing with it because I can pick things out that I'm like, historical accuracy or spelling or like crutch words or whatever that will like, I don't need to spend my time reading this. And I'm more okay with just like letting it go and moving on. So yeah, I don't know that it's better. I would just say it's like more no nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, part of it also is that I don't think I sort of make criticisms of like writing degrees, like MFA, saying you can't really teach someone to be a writer. Because I had a book group in here, and there was a romance. She was a published romance writer, and she said, "Yes, we can teach you to be a romance writer." And maybe that's true because a lot of the romance is very formulaic, saying
it's kind of like music. I would say like it's a comparison with music. If you have an ear, you can be trained. But if you don't have an ear for language and writing, like you can put all the parts together, but it's still not going to be as rapturous as someone else's romance novel that really has flair for it. So I think it's kind of nature, nurture, or somewhere in the middle.
Interesting. Subtlety being ambitious. Totally get it. Idjit, I should ask, how do you feel your writing experience impacted your reading instead?
Yeah, so I sort of answered that. I think at one point I was a little worried that the work that I was doing for writing craft would sort of come into my reading and not let me enjoy novels. But I have a booktube channel. There are still oodles of books, over 100 a year, that I read, and like probably 80 of them I really enjoy. Lots of mysteries, lots of romance, and they can be in vastly different styles. So it doesn't have to be elevated literature for me to enjoy it. In fact, a lot of those books I don't enjoy. What I like is when something surprises me or intrigues me or takes me into the story and makes me forget where I'm sitting, that sort of thing. So lots of different kinds of books are still enjoyable. So I think my worries weren't really all that founded, except for, being more okay with letting go of a book and not having to finish it.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. I mean, if a book is not jiving with me, I just put it, and sometimes it's a good book, and saying like, I just know that I'm not in the mood for this book at this time. And you can just put it on your shelf and come back to it at a later time. And
yeah,
like that was the thing. It's like you're bringing yourself to the book that you're reading.
Yeah.
With whatever's going on in your life and
right.
circumstances. And that's why also like I love rereading books because you're a different person.
It's a different river. Yeah,
It is. One of the books I mentioned that I loved in my when I was 30, and I thought this is a magnificent book. I read it again at 58, and I'm going like, what you thinking out 30-year-old?
Which book was that? Do you remember?
It was A Void by Georges Perec. It's translated from the French. Now, Perec wrote the book as a lipogram. And a lipogram is when you do not use a letter or letters in your writing.
Oh my God. Oh,
And he
geez.
chose not to write it using the letter E.
Okay. All
Now,
right.
French is the same as English. E is the most common letter in the French.
Right.
Now, when you write the book,
Translated. Oh my God.
you can't just drop. You say, if you write, you cannot. You would say you just can't just not use the letter.
Right.
You have to use a word that doesn't have it in there. So, like the is out.
Right.
So
it's impossibly difficult, and I
But-
would attempt it.
But here is the fun thing. I read it with as a book group with Sandy Miss reads a lot, and when she reads a book, she does not look at the covers; she just reads the book. It took her about 50 pages to figure out there's no E because the translator was skillful enough, and
Saying a lot. Yeah.
and the thing is, it's a weird book. You say this is a really weird style.
Yeah.
But you go with it because it's a weird plot. It's a weird plot, weird style. Okay. And it's only later you're going like, wow.
Wait a minute. Yeah, you get that Futurama meme of the guy going, wait a minute.
It's told as a detective story.
Uh-huh.
And there's a clues about them searching down this thing. It's like, what is missing? The letter E.
Oh my gosh.
So, but I
Right.
loved it at 30 and at 58. I'm going, okay, it's clever, but that's all it is. It's just clever.
Right.
So, Chris, thus were written at a single implosion the passage on food, love, sleep, and the knowledge of men. I can hardly recall a day spent with more ardor or more lucid thoughts. Margaret Yourcenar.
Yourcenar. She's a French writer.
She's a French writer. I had to read one of her books at university. It was okay. It was pretty good. I had to read an English translation, but it was pretty good. Gareth, do you do events where you read your books publicly for promotional purposes?
I did for launch events, but there isn't generally other things that come up that require reading the book. Usually, even when you do interviews, reading a passage isn't that much of a intriguing element. So usually the interviewer will ask other questions rather than ask you to read. But I have done this in the past. I've even sung songs that I put in the book for launch events, which is actually really fun.
That's very brave. Unless, of course, you know how to sing.
I do love to sing. We do a thing called Author Tubers Host Karaoke. And it's going to be this weekend. If anyone likes to sing and isn't afraid to try it in public on YouTube forever, Barrett, Lori, and I host a karaoke session on.
Who's the host of something? Lori?
Barrett, Lori, and
Barrett,
I. So we switch off each month. And I'm hosting this Saturday at, 5 p.m. Pacific, I guess. So, yeah, should be fun.
So, Courtney, hello, everyone. Where's Alan? Alan took a nap before. I think he wasn't
awake at 3 a.m.
I don't think Alan was feeling very, very well today. So I think he just basically called in sick, or not called in sick, played a hooky day.
Yeah, there you go.
Bad. Thanks for a wonderful night live show. Nice to meet you. I need to walk with the hubby. He says it's good for me. LOL. I'm the okay. Have a great night, everyone. Now, Bad, I know you're gone, but you should walk every day.
Yeah.
At least a half hour to an hour.
I got my 3.65 miles in this morning when it was nice and cool. So good idea.
That's good. Well, you see, I do audiobooks. So every day I say, hey, I get to go read and walk at the same time.
Are you listening to an audiobook now?
I am.
Which book?
I am listening to Eating to Extinction.
Oh, okay.
It's for the BookTube Prize,
Okay.
nonfiction. So I'm the rules of the You're not really supposed to give critical information.
Okay.
I can tell you it's about foods going extinct and
Okay.
cultural heritage, like Native American food culture.
Okay.
Like they had a whole food culture before Americans took over America.
Right. Right.
And that's basically disappeared.
Yeah.
You don't eat the native food. So he's going through all kind of native foods and food cultures that are going extinct.
Okay.
That's all I can really say without getting. Now I'm almost done. I have like hour 10 minutes left. So
I am listening to a book by Erica Baumgarten, who's a fairly big author, and it's called No Two Persons. And the audiobook is actually read by a variety of people because the book is concerning all the different ways a book within the book, influences or touches people's lives. And it's super interesting. It starts with the writer, but we've gone into like all these other people who have used it in vastly tangential ways, and their lives are intersecting outside of the book, and it's very cool. So I've still got like 4 hours left, but it's
that's
really
kind of neat. I love it when audiobooks go the extra mile.
Yeah.
There's two that I think are really, really good examples. One is a book called Lincoln in the Bardo.
Okay. I haven't read.
I forgot the name. George Sanders.
Yeah.
And it's
Huge.
The thing is, in this book, it's telling one story, but he has something like 120 different points of view.
Yeah. That's part of the reason why I haven't read it.
They use 120 different narrators.
Yeah.
Now it's interesting because he's going through now for the longer chapters. He actually uses professional book narrators, people experience. But for the shorter ones, they're like have like maybe 5 lines. He's going to his wife, he's going to his daughter, saying, "Can you read 5 lines correctly?" And most of them can. Most people, especially book people, like if someone asked you to read 5 sentences for an audiobook, you could almost certainly do that.
Right.
I could do that.
Yeah.
But that's the book. So you get all these narrations with different voices. And I thought that was just a fantastic way to do an audiobook. And the second one was a book on LBJ.
Okay. And
the book was reviewing LBJ's career and presidency through the quotes that people were talking about him. Alan is here. I'm going to let him on just a sec. But in some of these places, they had audio tapes. And for the book, they played the original audio tapes. So you can hear LBJ talking about his manly parts.
Oh, no. Wow.
Okay. Alan is here. So let's see if we can add him to the stream. Well, hello, Alan. A little late to the show. Did you have a nap?
Do you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I overslept. No.
Okay. We kept everyone entertained.
We
totally
lots of projects when you were gone. You have to write a critical.
We've been tap dancing for an hour and a half, so you're welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, what happened? You hit a button or something. He'll be back, hopefully.
Hey, bad. Totally agree about natural aptitude of writing. Yeah. There are some people who can just pump that stuff. You hear about stories like a lot of the pulp writer who can just write a book in 2 weeks. There was a science fiction author, Michael Moorcock, who could literally write a whole book in 1 week. 150-page book, just write it out in 1 week.
Crazy.
Fred, do you write all year round, or are there certain times of the year, a season that inspire you more?
I will say that certain months, like I said, I sort of prioritize different tasks. The last year, I have sort of dropped out of the November NaNoWriMo crowd. It's sort of gotten bigger than I participate in, I guess, but for a good 9 years, every November I was drafting a book. But now it's sort of a floating on this month, off 2 months, on this month, off 3 months sort of writing schedule. So it's not seasonal. It's just sort of depending on plans and work schedules and travel schedules and whatnot. Just sort of fit it around life.
Yeah, I tried NaNoWriMo 1 year.
Yeah? How did it go?
Well, it went in. I got through like the first week of a book that would have been absolutely dreadful, but that's okay. And then my wife told me that she had gotten a promotion. We were living in Virginia. She said, "Oh, we're moving to Washington State." And after that, just life took over, and that book, thankfully, just never made it out of its. Okay, here's Alan again.
It was overtaken by events, I believe is the phrase.
Hey, Alan, welcome back.
Let's wait for the sound. There we go.
No sound from Alan yet.
Idiot.
Oh God.
Okay, Alan. You're listening and talking, or just
We can see you.
I can't. You know, my connection is still horrible. I don't know what the problem
We
is.
can hear
I
you.
should.
we can hear you.
I'm just gonna let you guys do it. Yeah, my connection is bad.
Oh, probably like lag.
Yeah.
I think he's frozen. Okay.
Okay.
So Gareth Love with George Sanders' book. Margaret's face is saying, "I don't think I'll be reading that." 100. It's actually a very good book.
But you know what? I've heard good things about Something in the Pond in the Rain, which is this collection of stories that followed up.
A Ripple in a Pond. Yeah, that's his analysis of Russian short stories.
Yeah, that sounded really good to me. So I don't know. Someone wants to send that to me.
So Gareth, do you use reoccurring characters over several books? I've done it, and it's quite exciting, I find.
Yeah, so I have 6 books. The historical mystery is standalone. The YA supernatural is standalone. And then the trilogy is the same characters. So you start with the Keening, go to the Grasping Roach, and then end with Stormwrack and Spindrift. And that is a family saga. So you start with like the mother and the father, and then the next book is concerned more with the 2 older children, and then the next book is concerned with the 2 younger children as they like age up to their
so like the first character be a grandmother at the end of the 3rd book or something like that.
Yes, exactly. So yeah. Quite exciting. I don't know if it's exciting so much as like nerve-wracking, because like you have to track the characters and their histories and their dates and everything. Yeah.
You know, I love that technique. There's a mystery author named Tana French. You ever heard of her?
Yes.
You ever read anything?
I haven't read her yet. No. So she's a Dublin Murder Squad, right?
Right.
Yeah.
She does a very interesting series where it's the same murder squad, but the narrators of the book change.
Yeah.
And
very interesting.
And the thing is, I love is her 3rd book, which is sort of my favorite. You have a character, and I won't go. He's like he's the head of the undercover department.
Okay.
In Dublin.
Uh-huh.
And when he was a teenager, he was going to run away with his girlfriend and go to England and start a rock band. And the day he's supposed to meet her, she doesn't show up. And there's a note saying, "I've gone to England." He goes, "Oh, she dumped me." And he decides to become a police officer instead. 17 years later, they find her body in an abandoned building.
Oh.
So he wants to know who murdered his old girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
But he's he's not involved officially with the murder. So you have a detective who's doing the real, he's the narrator, and he hates this other detective. The detective is such a dickhead. And you hate him because he's really the villain of the book because you don't know who murdered. But in the fourth book, he's the narrator. But how can you put such a detestable character in as a narrator? But the shift is brilliant because, okay, you can still see why he was a dickhead in the first book.
Yeah.
But it shifts and you say, okay, I can accept him for that. And it's just a brilliant shift of narration of how you can view characters through different narrators.
Right. Yeah. The value judgments shift when you change your perspective, which is just like real life, you know.
It's just a really, anyone who wants to be a writer should probably look at that saying, this is how changing perspective, like different narrative, is really, really well done. All right, Alan is back. Let's try and add him again.
Oh, the swirling. Oh.
We joke that we should have a GoFundMe page so he can have real internet service.
Oh, I know.
Fred, this was fun. Thanks so much for answering my questions, Margaret, and have a great night. Goodbye, Fred. Great night. The driver has gone. And digging books, LOL. Okay, we are out of comments. We've been at this an hour and 40 minutes, which is sort of, you know, I say it's an hour, but it always goes longer.
Okay.
So my comment is, anything else that you want to talk about? Any last comments before we call it a night?
No, except to say that come on over to my channel, subscribe, and talk to me about your books too. Yeah. Thank you for having me, Greg. This is great.
Thank you.
Wish Alan had been here to contribute, but yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's okay.
That's all right.
We've sort of grown accustomed to the fact that some nights he just drops out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for coming. Last comment from Zap, Nettie, and Gareth. What time is sunrise? Are you still up because the sun never sets on the English Empire?
I like that. That's a good dig.
It is a good. Thank you, everyone who is still in the comments. Thank you for everyone who has participated. Thank you for everyone who's made a comment. And have a good night. And goodbye.
Bye.